All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time to talk to folks out there who want to become firefighters.
Yeah, and with a compliment like that you introduced the show with, I might need to use another restroom these days. Get a little worried. But yeah, we got representatives from the Missoula and the Frenchtown Rural Fire Departments. We'll let you guess who is who here. Well, why don't we go ahead and we'll start with Frenchtown, since you had to travel the furthest to get here. Unless you come from Sealy.
Hi, Libby. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Now, you and I spoke last week, right?
We did, correct.
That's very cool. So I learned a little bit. See, originally I did this interview with Bill, and we talked when they first started the program a couple of years ago. And now the resident fire program, how's that working?
It's working great. Frenchtown's had theirs in place since about the 90s. Rural's had theirs a little less, but it's been a great opportunity for a lot of the young people in the country and in the surrounding area to get some very vital experience for this job and make them very competitive in this career field.
So basically, if someone volunteers to be the resident, they live in the firehouse.
Correct. They live in the fire station for 2 years. They pull shift with the career firefighters.
Do they ever get to go home?
They do get, well, they do get to go home. They're not on shift 24/7. The shifts are set up to be nights and weekends, but it's set up to be their primary residence. They can still go take vacations. They can get coverage for their shifts. They're not there forever.
So what are they doing? Are they polishing the engine, putting the dots on the Dalmatian, sliding up and down the pole all day? I mean, what are they doing in the firehouse?
Usually the career staff does that during the day, so nighttime we leave them to run the calls.
I'm glad someone's there for the Dalmatian.
Yes.
Do you have a Dalmatian?
We do not have a Dalmatian. We're unfortunately.
Okay.
Cruella de Vil?
We'll have to work on that for you. Okay, anyway.
They have nice fur coats, I'm sure.
Shame on us. I'm sorry.
Sorry. We play a lot. I was curious, though, how many residents do you have at a time?
The numbers vary depending on the program. Right now at Frenchtown, we have 7. I believe Rural has 6 right now. So numbers, we could have more. We have room for more, and we want to have more.
So you guys basically have like a dorm room.
It depends on where they live, actually. So they're set up, some stations are set up so they have their own individual room, and then they share a common living area. Other stations, they may share, there may be 3 in a room, but they have partitions, they have privacy. And again, they just share the common living areas, the kitchen, the bathrooms, things like that.
So let's just say I'm traveling to Montana from California or some other state to go to school.
Correct.
And I don't want to pay rent, and I don't want to have to pay to live in some expensive housing here. Could I just sign up to be a volunteer firefighter and live out my next 4 years in the fire department?
It works best if you're actually interested in a career in fire. But yeah, we attract a lot of students for that reason. They realize I really want to give back to my community. I really want to do something that resembles this career. Why don't I get some experience? And hey, I can have free rent at the same time.
Well, that's pretty cool. What about other amenities? What about like power, water? I assume they're not getting charged for that sort of thing.
Nope, utilities are all paid for.
Wow.
And aside from all those living costs, they get all sorts of training and certifications. They'll get their Fire 1, they'll get training in Fire 2, wildland firefighting, their EMT, all things that they need to take that next step and move on to a career position somewhere.
So they'll basically be fully credentialed by the time that they're done to be an entry-level firefighter.
Correct.
Wow. That's
so quite literally, could somebody who goes to that resident program and stays the maximum, it's 2 years, right?
It's a 2-year program. They can extend if we have room or things like that.
Could they go anywhere in the country after that?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I got to ask you a question. So you're from Frenchtown Rural, and maybe we should shift this over to Jake here for Missoula Rural.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fabulous Jake Fuller right here. So
which firehouse has the best space? I mean, if I were going to pick.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit biased here because I happen to be the station captain at our Bonner fire station. So hands down, Bonner is going to be your best accommodation.
All right, now hold on. What I want to ask about, forget the accommodation. I want to talk
Scenic
about the
views.
food. Let's talk about the victuals,
Well, I think we all know that firehouses are known for cooking, and we like to do an evening meal together quite often.
What is your specialty? If you've got a recipe that you like to cook.
So I don't know about a recipe, but I'm a pretty mean sauté as far as in the Italian side of things.
Okay.
Got a little bit of a background there as well.
Wow.
A lot of people joke that's how I conned my way onto the fire department, as I could cook.
Is it a joke? It looked totally serious the way you delivered that. I wasn't sure. She's not a guest. You basically bribed yourself under the fire department.
It never hurts to be able to feed the crew, and I was a resident myself, nearly nearly 14 years ago.
Wow.
I started out in this very same opportunity, so this is a great, and that's how the cooking reputation got started. And,
so you're a walking, talking success story here for the resident program.
That's it's near and dear to my heart for sure because of that. It's where I came from. In fact, it's where many of us came from, and as volunteers and residents prior to getting in. A lot of people know how difficult it is to get into this business. It's very competitive. And
so is there like a window now where you're accepting new folks, or can that happen anytime?
So this is a very focused effort on trying to promote awareness of what a resident firefighter is, but also we need a little help in the recruitment category right now.
Sure.
But interest is a year-round deal. Both of our agencies have opportunities outside of just resident firefighters or career. So we're kind of focusing on that 18 to 25 demographic because that's typically who has the ability to live in a fire station before.
And who can handle the work too. I mean,
it is
hard
a commitment.
work. It's tough.
It is, along with all the benefits that Libby spoke about, it does take a committed person, a dedicated person, somebody who likes to be a part of their community.
For the people that sign up for this, you're 18, right in the door, you walk in. I mean, you're not driving the engine the next day, right?
No, that's week 2, but
you're on Dalmatian scooping duty for a week.
We definitely want to stress that we're looking for attitudes and we're looking for dedication. We're looking for the kind of person for this job. We'll teach you the rest. That's sort of one of our specialties is training. So
obviously, you said that you get all these credentials: Fire 1, Fire 2, wildland firefighting. Well, what are you doing most of the time? Are you going out on calls actually, or are you just
absolutely right?
Okay.
And so with agencies the style of Frenchtown and Missoula Rural, we really depend on the resident and volunteer staff to provide the service to our communities. And so it's a mutually beneficial deal is how I view it. Career path folks that are interested in trying to in career positions, they have the ability to get the resume and the experience and learn the culture, and what better way to learn about the business than living in a fire station. But the agencies and our communities get the benefit of the manpower as well. So that's
okay. We need some contact information for both of you. I know there are folks out there right now that say, I want my kid out of the house. No, I want my kid to be doing this. So Libby, how do we contact you?
So best way for this event that we're promoting right now is to go to Facebook. It's the 2016 Fire Rescue EMS Exhibition.
Okay.
There'll be the contact information on there. Additionally, they can email us at 16recruits@gmail.com. And then for those who may not be able to make the event that we're putting on later this week, they can go to each of our individual websites, Missoula Rural's website or Frenchtown's website, and contact us through there.
Fantastic.
Tell a college student.
Or if mom and dad have a 30-year-old, they want to get out of the house.
As long as a 30-year-old can do laundry.
You know what? You would make a great firefighter.
Sometimes we do get that.
Hey, I want to thank you both for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for
best
having
of luck
us.
to you, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. And being such good sports, we appreciate that. They didn't throw it. They didn't try to, put me in a fireman's carry and throw me out the window. So
I don't even think you'd have to do a fireman's carry to throw you out the window.
I know.
Probably just punt.
They're pretty tough. All right, well, we're going to take a break and come right back with more of Talk Back, some open phones here in a moment. Oh, we never have any fun on this show. Anyway, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. John King's over there. I'm Peter Christian. Stacey Rye going to be joining us here in about 15 minutes at the top of the hour. She is the current county commissioner. She was appointed when I believe Bill
Karras stepped down.
Bill Carey stepped down, right?
Yeah.
And then so she is taking that post, and she's also running for the election in that against Dave Strohmeyer on the Democratic ticket. So
that'll be a fun conversation. Speaking of fun, so I've been watching all these videos from Nevada and the delegate selection process.
And of course, it's all the Trump people getting mad at the other people. Is the Republicans, right?
It is not. It is in this case. Oh, there's plenty of sorrow on both sides,
I'm sure,
Republicans
yeah.
and Democrats. But
right.
This what happened in Nevada just blows most of what has come before out of the water. This is Barbara Boxer, one of the most prominent Democratic senators in the country.
Right.
In the spectrum of right to left, she is just right next to Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
She beat out Carly Fiorina in California, right?
Right.
This is her trying to speak to a crowd who is constantly booing her. Go ahead and play the clip.
Here we go.
I present to you Senator Barbara Boxer.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I bring a message from Bernie Sanders, and I bring a message from Hillary Clinton. We need civility in the Democratic Party. Civility. Because the whole future of the country is at stake. Now, when you boo me, you're booing Bernie Sanders. Go ahead. You're booing Bernie Sanders. Bernie is my friend. You want to boo Bernie? Boo me. Go on. Go on. You're booing Bernie. You're booing Bernie.
Wow.
Let's hear it for Hillary Clinton. All right. We have the vote. We have the voice. We have victory. Yay.
Oh my gosh.
Senator Barbara Boxer from California.
You know something? I grew up in Brooklyn. I am not afraid of bullies. I'm for Hillary Clinton, but she's for all of us. So keep on booing and boo yourselves after this election. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We had our Nevada caucus, and Hillary Clinton won. We had our Nevada caucus, and Hillary Clinton got the support of the Hispanic community, of women, of casino workers, and Hillary Clinton won.
In fact, win the Latino vote in Nevada. I can say that as a Latino myself.
And Hillary Clinton is going to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump, and she's going to win.
Yeah,
And
I
all
believe
the booing in
might
the
have
world
just started in
does
Nevada.
not change the fact that our country is at stake. And Hillary Clinton has fought for us year after year after year before the cameras were on. And she was a civil rights worker. And then she worked for history. She's going to win in Nevada. Thank you. God bless you. On to victory.
It's kind of hard to tell at the end that she says, "Thank you, God bless you." I don't know if all those boos were directed at her or God or Hillary or Bernie. Who knows?
It just sounded like when she was, I grew up in Brooklyn, so boo this. You know what I mean? I could just see her, doing some sort of gesture. But
so this is an article. I'm going to read a little bit from this article from the New York Times.
The New York Times,
which apparently everyone's from New York these
the paper
days.
of record, yeah.
From Bernie Sanders supporters, death threats over delegates. This is written by Alan Rappaport.
Wow.
And we're going to listen to some of the voicemail messages that was left that this article refers to in just a second. Throne chairs, leaked cell phone numbers, death threats spewed across the internet. No, this is not the work of Donald J. Trump supporters, some of whom have harassed critics of the presumptive Republican presidential nominee. It was angry supporters of Senator Bernie Sanders who were directing their ire at the Nevada Democratic primary and its chairwoman, Roberta Lang, over a state convention on Saturday that they think was emblematic of a rigged political system. Quote, "It's been vile," end quote, said Miss Lang, who riled Sanders supporters by refusing their requests for rule changes at the event in Las Vegas. Quote, "It's been threatening messages, threatening my family, threatening my life, and threatening my grandchild," end quote. The vicious response has come as millions of new voters, many of whom felt excluded by establishment politicians, have flocked to the insurgent campaigns of Mr. Sanders and Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump has all but locked up the nomination, but many backers of Sanders remain enraged as his hopes of being the Democratic candidate dwindle. All right, now I'm going to stop reading here.
All right.
The Roberta Lang released some of the video or the sound bites from her phone. I'll be honest, it doesn't sound like threats to her grandchild. One guy threatens that fire might come to Philadelphia when they have the national convention.
Okay.
But I want to play these two clips, and then after that, this is discussion from the floor. There's a little clip of discussion from the floor of that Bernie Sanders supporters are talking in front of the Nevada booing process, right?
Okay.
And they talk about there may be blood. Anyway, so here's the clips.
Hi, Roberta Lang. I'm pretty sure you're probably not going to get back to me because you don't care about the American people, but what you did today was corrupt, it was wrong, and the founding fathers of our country would be ashamed of you. You deserve to be in prison, not the chairman for the Democratic Party. Right now.
That was pretty terrible. We probably just guaranteed fires in Philadelphia. I'm not a Psycho Bernie supporter, but there are some out there, and you may have made a bad decision by completely ignoring the democratic process tonight. Thanks. Bye.
Don Taylor says, if the people are pushed to an uprising, it could be bloody. I don't think the establishment knows what a dangerous road they're on. Don, I agree. This is a really big deal.
All right, there you go.
We're up against a break, so Tyler, hang on. We'll get your call in just a minute.
Imagine if a Trump supporter had said that there could be a bloody uprising.
Right, yeah. I'm sure that would be. That wouldn't be leading the news at all, would it? Of course
probably.
not. Yeah. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah, we're back on Talkback. Got about 2.5 minutes before we have to go to our hard break, so I want to get Tyler on. Hi, Tyler. What's up, man?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take as much time as I can.
Go for it.
So have you guys, since this open phones, I thought I'd call in and complain about this because I had a friend who told me how frustrated she was about this. Have you guys ever been out to Fort Fizzle on Highway 12 just west of Lolo?
I've driven past there many times. I had a couple of picnics there a while back.
Yeah, well, there's not much to do there. I mean, it's just an open-air parking lot with a bathroom. Last year, the United States Forest Service decided because somebody vandalized the bathroom that they were going to close down Fort Fizzle. And so what they did was they put in a fence and they put in a gate. And they gated it off. They actually went in and dug up half the parking lot. They closed down. There used to be two entrances. You could come in, no matter which way you were headed, you could come in fairly high speed, 25, 30 miles an hour into the parking lot, which is good because you're leaving a freeway, Highway 12. So what they did was, because somebody vandalized the bathroom, they went in and they vandalized the parking lot. They tore up half the parking lot. You can only get in there with one entrance now. And then what they actually did was they gated it off. They locked the gate, and they put a sign over the thing, a bag over the sign that says, no more, people can't use this parking lot anymore. I am so frustrated with the United States government that because somebody does one thing, whether it's somebody passing through, whether they're from California or Wisconsin or whatever, they do something stupid, and they reach out and they try and punish everybody else in the area. And what they did was they actually did more vandalizing than anybody else because they actually closed down a parking lot. And there are people in this area that are so frustrated. On Mother's Day, there was 5 cars parked at that locked gate so that people could walk into the parking lot and have a picnic. Like, what is the purpose? Why would they do something like this? I don't understand it.
Well, we're going to try to find out. What do you think? We'll try to make some calls and see what's going on, okay?
I would love for you guys to have a representative for the Forest Service on to defend their actions for gating off a parking lot in reaction to somebody's stupid, behavior.
We will look into it. Thanks, Tyler.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
appreciate it, man. All right, there you go. Fort Fizzle. All right, so
wow.
Anyway, we're going to take a break. We have Stacey Rye coming into the studio. She is a current county commissioner and running for the office. And of course, we had Dave Strohmeyer on last week, so we will be right back. Welcome, everybody. It's hour number 2 of Talkback, sponsored by Nissan Hyundai of Missoula, celebrating their grand opening sale, offering top dollar for trades, 0% financing up to 72 months. Selway Armory on Stockyard Road, more guns and ammo than anyone in Missoula, Montana's premier firearms dealer. AAA, they pay for itself with discounts on big brands. Join now, get a free canvas tote. Visit AAA.com/Montana. And by Western Montana, New Holland, south of the Y on Highway 10. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 underway now. I'm Peter Christian. John King is right over there.
Good morning.
And joining us in studio, a woman who has really needs no introduction because you've been around Missoula, involved in government, at public, service for a long time. Stacey Rye, how are you?
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. Now, before we went on the air, I just wanted to confirm 2 terms in the city council, right?
Correct.
All right. Yeah. So you were on from when to when?
2004 to 2012.
Okay, and so now you are kind of an interim county commissioner.
Sure. Yeah, I was appointed.
Okay.
Early last fall late September. Went through a process where probably 5 or 6 of us applied and had to go through this process, and was chosen by the 2 remaining commissioners to fill that seat.
Could you describe what that process was like?
Yeah. So the Democratic Central Committee, the local county Democratic group.
Because Bill Carey was a Democrat, right? So we had to,
yeah. So
okay.
it's written in statute. Montana Code annotated how they pick a person to fill out the remainder of that term and possibly run when it comes up for election. And so the Democratic Central Committee has to interview and pick their top 3 recommendations. So so I came out of that process and was the top recommendation, I think, and then went to the county process, and they had set up this extensive questionnaire and interview process. So I went through that interview process. It was a little nerve-wracking. There were probably 15 or 17 people sitting around the table.
Right.
I got to sit at the head of the table and answer questions, and then was chosen from that pool of 3 people to fill the seat. Have been there for about 6 or 7 months now. And knew probably in like 2014 that I wanted to run for this position. So when I got off the city council, I volunteered for a county board because within like 2 months, because I just love local government.
You want to stay involved, right?
Yeah, I just really, my passion is local government. I really have no desire to like run for Congress or run for the legislature. My hats are off to people who go to Helena. That's not my thing. My thing is local government. So anyway, I knew in about 2014 that, if Bill Carey chose to retire, that I wanted to run for the seat, and I wanted to get some county experience. So I signed up for a county board to try and get some of that experience. But there is nothing like sitting in the position to really, it's a steep learning curve, and it's probably J-shaped. Like you actually get dumber before you get smarter.
Uh-huh. I'm still on that trend.
I'm on the downward thing.
Yeah.
I'm still down there. So
that's why my name starts with a J.
I might be there too. So yeah, it's very humbling to realize how large this county is and how you have to be really careful in weighing the interests of the urban city, the urban fringe, and the really rural parts of our county. Our county is 2,600 square miles. It's larger than the state of Delaware, which begs the question: why is Delaware a state? No, I'm just kidding.
I second that.
or why is Missoula broken up into 2 counties?
Well, many Montana counties and many western United States counties are just huge.
Okay.
So the way the Montana counties were formed, happened probably between about 1870 and 1920.
Sure.
And so we have what we have. And, it's just this really big, diverse county. And so I knew going into it we'd have to do some controversial things. And I just decided to take that risk because I knew I wanted to do this job and I wanted to leg up when I decided to run this spring.
Well, let's talk about the controversial things. Where do you feel you would like to see changes in your county government, the way things are working in Missoula? Obviously, you're in it to do something different, right?
Right. I think first and foremost is openness and transparency. So the county is moving that direction. There's nothing certainly nefarious being done, but we have to let people know beforehand, before we do things, so that we engage them, so that they have a chance to participate meaningfully in their government. And that means posting agendas and making sure minutes are done and making sure that people can tell what it is that we're doing. The city of Missoula is highly scrutinized. They have a dedicated reporter, so on and so forth. Missoulians are insanely plugged into their local government. So whatever I can do to kind of help that process, help that openness and transparency. So, for instance, I've been writing for a listserv. There's a listserv out there, a government listserv, and I've been writing for that, and I think probably 500 or 700 people subscribe to that. And
now, hold on. What is a listserv?
It's an email that goes out to people who sign up. So it's like a magazine subscription, only electronic.
Yeah, I get these from the city as well. It's basically like, things that are going on in your part of town, or in the county's case, things that are going on in the county, kind of like an update.
Okay.
If you've ever been to a church before, they often have a little newsletter every month or every week. It's kind of just an update about what's going on.
It's a county church bulletin.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, it kind of
Something
is.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that's one way. Certainly social media is another way to keep people informed about what we're doing. But it's not just so that people can see what it is that the county is doing in terms of where we're fixing those potholes, which are imaginary in everybody's minds. We don't have any potholes, actually.
Yeah, those are in the city. I know.
Those
I
are
tell
all
you
in
the
the
street.
And So there's that sort of information, but there's the information about the future. And that's harder to get out, and it's harder to get people to participate, but it's really important. And some of those things happen at department meetings, which are not sexy. And, the general citizen probably either A, wouldn't want to come, B, doesn't have the time, or C, might feel a little funny about just walking into a department meeting, which is certainly open to the public. So it's, it falls to kind of us to make sure that people know what it is that we're going to be working on in the next, couple of months.
Yeah, we got to go to a break, but things look pretty regulated at the city level, right? So every Monday we can expect to hear city council minutes, things like that. I can go and watch it online if I want to. Is that sort of access available at county?
It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming. So we do have a new website, and we do post agendas there. It would, we're working towards, and I really am a champion of making sure that those agendas are posted way in advance, the Friday before the Wednesday meeting, because our big Wednesday meetings are what you think of as the city council Monday night meetings. And then MCAT also tapes those. So it's good for people to know about those. It's just part of it is getting the word out, and part of it is making sure that the agenda is readily available electronically, and it's hyperlinked to all of the paperwork that goes behind it. Because it's one thing to read something on the agenda, like, oh, we're doing this building for lease or rent. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
The first time I sat in a meeting where we did a building for lease or rent, I was lost, and I have 8 years in government, So it's making sure those documents are linked, not just have the agenda.
We're going to come right back. All 4 of our lines are open. If you want to talk with Stacey Rye, this is your opportunity. She's standing right here. And so if you have a question or comment, give us a call, 721-1290. We'll be glad to put you right on, because she is actually the county commissioner now, but she wants to be the full-time. It's a 6-year term. So we want to find out how you feel about this. And we'll be right back. Okay, we are back on Talkback. Stacey Rye joining us here in studio. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we have callers who want to visit with you. As you strap on those headphones, if you would, please. There you go. Okay, we're going to get, I believe it is John. John, you're up. You're on with Stacey Rye. Hi.
Yeah, hi. I was going to say that your opponent in the election here is Dave Strohmeyer. Years ago, he advocated for the suppression of free speech by trying to get Rush Limbaugh taken off of KGVO. Since logic tells us that anyone willing to support the suppression of free speech would have few reservations about misrepresenting himself in the public, I was wondering if you've ever advocated for suppression of free speech.
Okay, thanks for the call. So, Stacey.
Not to my knowledge.
Should be a softball there for you.
Yeah. I'm
not, you can imagine, I'm not a huge fan of Rush Limbaugh. Don't listen to him in my personal life. Have relatives that listen to him. But
the last time I checked, every radio ever made has an off button, so you don't have to listen to it.
I have a question for you. It's one that I also asked Mr. Strohmeyer last week, which is there's a consideration going on in the city government about a gas tax. They would use some of these fees to help with roads, infrastructure, stuff like this. My understanding anyway. Who knows what they'll end up using it for. But the gas tax went forward last time. County commissioners basically, I believe, stopped it. Would you support a gas tax, or are you opposed to a gas tax if it were to come to you and you were able to vote on it?
The last time the gas tax was raised, either at the federal or state level, was 1993. So you can imagine that costs for repairing, fixing, maintaining roads have not kept pace since 1993. I have watched both city and county governments struggle with how to maintain basic infrastructure. And I think most Americans at this point can see our roads are falling apart, our bridges are falling apart. We don't have money to do the things that people want. And in my experience, I've had very few, if any, constituents ask for less service instead of more. So yes, I would advocate for a gas tax. Couple of caveats. There is a conversation going on at the state level right now. There's a state coalition coming together, including the State Chamber of Commerce and the Contractors Association, for an infrastructure kind of bill that would include, I think, a 10-cent gas tax increase. So if that goes forward, I don't know if we need one at the local level, but if that doesn't go forward at the legislature, certainly we can stand to have the voters vote on a 2-cent gas tax as long, and I think statutorily it is written so that it's equitable between the city and the county, whatever the city collects and whatever the county collects. It doesn't cost a lot to administer, from what I've talked to the county clerk and recorder and treasurer about. So we have to do something about our infrastructure, and I would love to sit here and tell people that, we don't have to have any additional taxes, but that's just not true. When I do kind of a back-of-envelope calculation, I think I drive pretty much the average person drives. I would pay probably $11 a year in a gas tax, but most importantly, we would be able to capture some tourist dollars out of that because we have millions of tourists that come here that don't
Realistically speaking, how much money a year
would that generate?
Would that particular tax that you're talking about?
1.1 million.
And that money would be used for?
Infrastructure. Roads.
Okay.
Yep. Maintaining roads, fixing roads, so on and so forth. And I should note that diesel is exempt from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of infrastructure, the McClay Bridge. Tell us your thoughts.
Well,
are you for replacing it with a wider bridge? Against it?
So you're not going to wait for the callers. You're just going to do all. You took the one call, and
I'm
now
throwing some red meat out there. By the way, if you want to ask,
it was
questions,
a gentle entry, but now let's get to it.
721-1290.
So nothing is going to come before the county commissioners for probably 9 months to a year. There is a study going on to look at what a replacement bridge might look like at South Avenue. So that science it consists of, a lot of stuff, including I think it's called an environmental assessment. And if that comes back as what's called a categorical exclusion by the Federal Highways Department, if that comes back as a categorical exclusion and comes back with a recommendation to put a bridge on South Avenue, it will be because the McClay Bridge is literally crumbling, literally falling apart. If the McClay Bridge can be rehabilitated for X number of dollars, that would come back as one of the preferred alternatives as well. So. As an elected official, I have to wait for the science to come back because that's a good way to make decisions. But once the science comes back, I think I'm not an engineer. I think I have to trust the science.
Okay.
So if the science says it's safe, if it would not harm the environment, you would be for the bridge?
If the science says the McClay Bridge is safe?
If it wouldn't be, that it wouldn't harm the environment, the infrastructure, et cetera.
Sure. If the science comes back and says the McClay Bridge can be rehabilitated and for X number of dollars and is safe and is good for the river and good for the trout, which we've spent an enormous amount of money trying to save in western Montana, especially bull trout, then sure. Then I would be for, rehabilitating that bridge. If the science comes back and says the bridge is not going to work under any way, shape, or form, and we have to do a new bridge over here, and here's the science that backs that up, then I'm going to have a hard time arguing with that.
Okay, we're up against a break, and you are now officially, Stacey Rye, a Talkback All-Star because you have filled up all 4 of our lines, and so we're going to, if I had a T-shirt, I'd give you one. So we're going to come right back and continue with this conversation and get you callers involved, and we appreciate every one of you. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Stacey Rye joining us. She is she is actually the county commissioner, interim, and she's running for the office for 6 years. So let's get right to the phones because they're all full. Jeff, you are up first. You're on with Stacey Rye. Go ahead.
Hi, Stacey. I guess my question is, as a commissioner, what would you do to improve communication with the public? I've sent 3 emails earlier this spring to all the county commissioners. I had no response to the issue. It was a nice email. It wasn't an angry one. I followed that up with a phone call to each of the county commissioners. I got no response. So then I had to call the secretary receptionist. I finally got a call back from Gene Curtis that said you guys had all discussed my email, and I was referred to Sonat Roads and Bridges at the county. I then sent another email, and none of these emails have been responded to. I sent another email concerning asking a question about where I could find some information about meeting minutes, that sort of thing, and I have never had a response from anybody. So I'd like to know what you would do to improve the communication with the public.
Okay, thanks for the call, Jeff.
So Jeff, what had you been
I'm sorry.
emailing about?
I'm sorry.
It was a road and bridges question, apparently.
Right.
But if you want to try calling me back, you can.
Yeah.
Or post it on Facebook.
Sorry.
Oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, he's gone.
Oh, okay. I don't recall the email that he's talking about. And if we talked about it with roads and bridges, there's a couple of things that I can think of that we might have dealt with, but I can't think of his exact situation. Gosh, I apologize if none of us got back to his email. Typically, if someone brings us a problem, one of us brings it to a meeting with Public Works, and we talk it over, see how it goes, and then...
Yeah, let's get Jeff back on. So, Jeff, I hung up on too soon, so go ahead, please. What was your issue about, Jeff?
Well, it's about the parking around McClay Bridge.
Oh, yes.
And I realize that,
Yeah.
Stacey, you do support, the parking ordinance that's around it.
Right.
What I found and what I feel like
I think
is that...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Stacey.
Well, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and finish up?
I'm sorry.
And we'll let Stacey respond.
Yeah.
Well, my feeling was that I was basically being ignored by the commissioners by not getting a response to these emails. And as a citizen and a taxpayer, it makes me feel like, what do I have to do? Do I have to raise it to a higher level? Do I have to be the bigger squeaky wheel to get an answer? And I realize that everybody's busy in their own work, but it just seems that the communication is very, very difficult to do with that.
Can I ask a quick question, Stacey? I know that the county split into 3 sections, and each of you have a section, right?
Well, we're required to live in one of the districts, but
Okay.
it's not really split into sections.
Okay. So I was wondering, would it make a difference if he found out who was living in his district? Would that make any difference at all as far as the response goes?
It might. That's a good question. I haven't been there long enough to know
Okay.
if we,
Okay.
advocate in that
Sure.
sort of way.
Right.
Well,
Jeff,
that's why I sent emails to all 3 of
Right.
you, and I called all 3 of you.
Jeff, we talked about that extensively in a couple of different meetings with the sheriff and Public Works. And I apologize if a letter or an email didn't get sent back to you, but we talked about this at length about what it is that we would do for the upcoming season, because it is a serious problem down there.
It is.
Yeah.
And,
Now-
in defense of you, Jean Curtis was the person I talked to, and she said she would get back to me, and you would have a couple meetings. My second email was so I could look at those meetings on MCAT to see what was discussed.
Yeah, those aren't taped.
And I can dig for them and try and find them, but I don't know which meeting.
No,
you know
those
what I mean?
those have no minutes and aren't taped.
There's no way to find them.
There's no way to find them once they happen.
You have to be in the smoke-filled room.
Yeah, well, that's the information I was trying to find out, and Jean Curtis said she was going to get back to me after they decided what was going to happen for this year.
Yeah,
and I've never heard anything back.
Yeah, what typically happens,
Thanks,
Jeff, is that we after we have talked to staff about it, because they really know where the rubber hits the ground, hits the road. Once we talk to staff about it, then the way the process works is that a staff person is supposed to email or write the letter of what it is that we kind of came to. Sometimes one of us does it. Sometimes a staff person does it. And, things do fall through the cracks. I had assumed that word would have gotten back to him from a couple of meetings that we had about that, but clearly it didn't, and, that's our fault.
Okay.
Is it something you think that you could do? Video, for example, Peter and I, it's just a 2-man team, just 2 of us. Oh, most of our shows are videoed. We record them and put them up online. We don't make like a huge profit. I don't even think we make any profit off of it. We just waste our time doing it. But I mean, that sort of thing. I don't understand why like a county government can do it. I'm sure there's more than 2 employees.
If we can do it, you can do it.
Sure. I've actually talked about how it would benefit the county if we taped some of our meetings and or had some minutes from some of our meetings. Because I can give you an example. The Smurfett Stone site is a real conundrum. It's not an academic question. It is hurting the people of Frenchtown, that site is, with the cleanup and the unpaid taxes and so on and so forth. And so we have had these long meetings where we discuss, the cleanup with the EPA, and all of these people come in and the tribes come in. There's lawyers and scientists. And when we get up to leave, 2 weeks later, somebody will say to me, what happened in that meeting? And we're depending on my memory
which is okay.
There's not even minutes. Like
No.
there's not a secretary writing down what's going on.
No, there isn't. And to be fair, I don't want to. It's not anybody's fault, but we need to have those cursory minutes taken at those meetings so that we have them available to people like Jeff.
Yeah.
When and clearly that one fell through the cracks.
Or even in the case where commissioners leave or retire, I mean, there needs to be a sense of continuation for whoever comes on board next, right?
Right.
I mean, you have no idea, or you might not know what Bill was talking about before you took over his seat, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think for the good of the county, we really need to shake this up a little bit.
Larry, Brian, and John are waiting to visit with you, Stacey. We have one line open, 721-1290, and we're coming right back. On Talkback, 721-1290. And here we go. All the lines are full. We'll get as many calls as we can here. Larry's on the line. Larry, you're on with Stacey Rye. Go ahead.
Hey, Stacey, Larry Dunham here. I want to go back to the gas tax situation and the 2 cents, and a quick coverage of the history. Living in Condon and Sealy Lake area for that period of time, many people in that area, when it was 5 cents, felt as though the city of Missoula and Mayor Ingen had plenty of time to try to worry about his problems, and we didn't want to pay for the sidewalks and the potholes in the city of Missoula when he should be looking after that particular situation. And now with the 2 cents one, with the going back to Carlisle Water, with being able to spend $5 million for the lawyers but not take care of any infrastructure in the city of Missoula, this also is coming up, not just my opinion, but from the other people. My situation on this particular thing, and I'd like to get your side point or points on it, is if it's 2 cents, I would say it should be divided 50-50, and the money should be put in a lockbox, not a general fund, where we only spent for, quote, infrastructure and cannot be spent for anything else. That would include the city. What is your opinion on that particular area?
Thanks, Larry. And I guess I would follow up by saying, would it only be 2 cents forever?
It can never be 5 cents. It can only be 2 cents. That statutorily, we're only allowed to raise 2 cents. I mean, we can't even talk about 3 cents or 4 cents or 5 cents. Statutorily, there are some criteria. One is that it's 2 cents. One is that it's split. I can't remember how between the city and the county, but I think the county collections go to the county and the city collections go to the city. We've done forecasts on that, and the forecasts say it would be pretty equitable. It'd be about $550,000 for both jurisdictions. And then I believe both governments would make a commitment to spending the money on infrastructure, and I'm not sure of the statutory requirements on that, but they're probably fairly strict, and I can't see anybody saying, well, we just want it to go to the general fund. Of course we would say we want this to go to infrastructure because our infrastructure is failing.
Okay, let's go. Let's move on. Brian, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Well, that's good. My question is kind of along the same lines. I know we've had a tax on gas, federal, and even a state tax for quite some time. It was my understanding historically the reason that was put on there was to maintain our roads and bridges. Many times, and it looks like it's gone into the general fund, and it's just spent willy-nilly. And so how, if we have a tax and another tax, how can we as taxpayers be assured that that's exactly where the money is going to go when historically the tax that's already on gas goes for general fund and gets spent however our politicians want to spend it? How do we get that guarantee?
Well,
thanks for the call.
Yeah, I would disagree with Brian. The state collects, I can't remember how much it is, 30 cents or something for a gallon of gas. The feds collect 18 cents or something like that. It hasn't been raised since 1993. So it's not a matter that it's gone to the general fund. It hasn't. The Montana Department of Transportation and the federal Department of Transportation have, in fact, made that money go towards transportation needs. But the fact of the matter is, if you haven't raised something since 1993, we can't expect the same level of service.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. If you have a question, I have some Facebook comments.
I was just going to say that I interviewed the gal about the transportation board thing that's coming up, right? And she said it's a $20 million, it's either $20 or $50 million project for Russell Street, which would include a new bridge. And then she said, and then of course, then there's going to be Madison Street and Higgins Street, and her words. All three of those bridges have outlived their usefulness. They all need to be either repaired or replaced. And over the next, 20, 30 years, all three of those bridges are going to have to be replaced. That's got to be federal and state money, right? I mean, that's not coming from our gas tax stuff here.
Right. That's the amounts of money that we're talking about for replacing those bridges can't be funded at a local level.
Of course not.
Right. What we're talking about with the possible gas tax is funding, local infrastructure, local roads that aren't necessarily all on the state system.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Brian and Kitty on Facebook want to know, what is your take on the water issue with Missoula, since everyone will pay for it?
Since everyone will pay for it.
I think they're talking about mountain water.
Sure.
I think where it comes to be an interesting question for the county commissioners is there are people, especially in East Missoula, I think some off of reserve, that get services from what is the Mountain Water Company now, that if the city of Missoula takes over, will not have any kind of vote or any kind of representation.
Until they're annexed.
To those rates, right? And so, yeah, I guess there's the annexation
Peter.
question
That's
that
great, Peter.
will follow from that.
Thank you very much. I'm here all week.
That was Peter.
So I wanted to get your take on that. What is your take on the mountain water thing? And do you think that the county should fight to give representation to those that are served by mountain water if Missoula takes over?
Well,
the city of Missoula, I should say.
Well, I think the county commissioners actually do a pretty good job of representing their constituents, and one of those kind of gray areas happens right now with the sewer. So there are many places where there is a contract for sewer, and residents and subdivisions are on city sewer, on the city wastewater treatment plant, but aren't within city limits. And so we do what's called a contract for sewer. And so it's another utility that they don't necessarily have direct representation for. And I see the water thing as kind of the same thing, that it works well to have this contract for sewer and to have us representing them. And I think most people would want to stay in the county, not be annexed, and have a contract for water.
But one of the things that came out in the water trial was that the city was charging those that were in the county more than they were the people in the city. That they were paying higher rates, and they weren't able to have any kind of feedback. They weren't able to go and vote for the people that were making those rates.
For the sewer?
The treatment system, yeah.
On the treatment system? Well, the only thing I can think of is that that the cost of providing the infrastructure outside of the city where those mains didn't previously exist had to be paid for somehow. And so either the county has to pay for that or the residents have to pay for that. In the city pays for those mains to be put down.
I paid for that with an SID on my home. For 20 years I paid for it. So what's that?
Do you live within the city?
I do now, after I was annexed. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We have John, Pat, and Don, and so stay with us. Okay, we are, believe it or not, rapidly running out of time. Stacey Rye, kind enough to join us here at studio, and all the lines are full. We'll get as many calls as we can, so when we get you on, please get your question on quickly. John, thank you for holding. You're on with Stacey Rye. Go ahead.
Okay, fine. I'd like to ask everybody in the county and the city to not vote for any type of gas tax because it won't be used for repairing the streets. If everybody will remember, and I think, Stacey, you were on the city council at the time, the state allowed the city to levy, I think, a 2%, I'm not sure, but a tax for road repair and for parks in the city, and it was a special tax, and it's still there. And the city said, yes, we will levy those immediately. And to the honesty of the mayor, he said, we will levy these, but we will not use them for the roads. We will not use them for the parks. We will use them to pay the premium for the people who work for the city for their health insurance. So it was very self-serving. In other words, they took the tax money and literally put it in their pocket, and they're still doing it. It's paying their deductible that they would have had to pay otherwise. They would have had to pay a fee for their insurance.
John, you're repeating yourself. She's shaking her head. You're disagreeing, right?
Well, there's two different things that John is talking about.
Thanks, John.
One is the gas tax that came up right after I was on the city council, that the city asked the county to consider putting a 2-cent gas tax on the ballot. That was turned down. I think that was in 2013 or something. And the second thing that John is talking about is a parks district and a road district. And that's allowed by the state of Montana for local governments to initiate, and so the city of Missoula initiated both a road district and a parks district to help fund those things, because local governments sit on a one-legged stool called property taxes, and that's all we have. And it's really it's not fair to constituents and citizens of our fine county that's all we have. But the money really did go to parks and roads. It generates, I think, $500,000 or $600,000 a year for roads and maybe $300,000 a year for parks, and that money does go to those two departments. It didn't go to city health insurance or anything like that.
Real quick question: now that you've worked on both city budgets and county budgets, which system do you think does a better job, is more transparent?
Oh, we're just entering the budget process at the county level, but I love budgets, and I chaired administration and finance for this at the city for 6 years or something like that, and there is nothing that rocket science has on high finance, and and so I really love budgets. The county budget is super complex. It's about $120 million. It's twice that of the city. We have twice as many staff as the city does, and it's everything from Partnership Health Center, which is grant funded, federally grant funded, to the general fund, which is a little bit smaller. But how that all works is yet to be seen this budget season, and I think it'll go well.
Okay,
I'm looking forward to it.
Let's move on. Pat, thank you for holding. You're on Talkback with Stacey Rye. Hi.
Hi, Stacey. I live on an unmaintained county road out of Frenchtown. It goes up a mountain. It was maintained by Plum Creek in order to operate logging trucks, but they sold to U.S. Forest Service. No one is taking any responsibility for that road, and the county says it's up to the people who live on the road, and it's about 24 families at this point, but I understand a 286-acre parcel has been subdivided up north of us, and there's a portion of the road that is actually being washed out by the creek, and I'm wondering, as taxpayers, do we have any kind of recourse in order to get some kind of assistance?
Okay.
Well, Pat, I don't know your exact situation. I'd have to get input from Public Works to be able to give you an answer to those things. I don't know which creek is washing out your road.
It's Mill Creek out of Frenchtown.
Mill Creek out of Frenchtown. Yeah, I'm sorry, Pat. I don't know your exact situation on that particular maintained road. Typically, we do maintain roads that have more than X number of houses on them. So I would have to ask Public Works about that, Pat. Feel free to email me.
Pardon me?
Feel free to email me.
Thanks for your call, Pat.
All right, thanks, Pat.
All right, move along. Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick question.
Sorry.
Something I wanted to ask you that I also asked Dave. I was hoping you might be able to distinguish yourself from Dave on policy issues. Is there something that you feel that you have a strong disagreement with Mr. Strohmeyer on that you would take a different tack on than he would when it comes to running county government?
Well, Dave has spoken strongly about the agriculture proposal and conservation and climate change, and I agree with him that the county can and should be doing more when it comes to climate change. However, that is kind of a larger discussion to be held at the state and federal level, I believe, as well. What the county can and should be doing are more work for working families, more things that we can help facilitate, leadership that we can bring in terms of what can help our working families, economic development, that sort of thing. And that's what I'm particularly interested in, as well as openness and transparency. County government, Dave is good at legislation, and county government has some pretty strict sideboards on legislation that you can bring, because we are not a self-governing authority. We are kept we're kind of a subdivision of the state almost. And so there are very strict rules about what we can legislate and what we can't legislate.
Okay, we're up against a break, and we're going to come right. It's a 1-minute break, so Don and Mike will try to get your calls in the last 8 minutes, so stay with us. Welcome back to Talkback. Stacey Rye is with us, and of course she's running against Dave Strohmeyer for the Democratic primary for county commissioner. So
I'll go ahead and ask this question. It's been out there. It's in the papers. The county commissioner, Gene Curtis, hasn't endorsed you for this particular election. I was hoping you could express why you think that might be.
I don't know the answer to that. She hasn't come to me and said why that is. So I can only speculate and read about it in the papers.
Or on the radio.
Or on the radio. You know, thank God for radio.
Or on our YouTube video later, whatever.
Yeah. So I knew that there'd be some controversial issues coming up even before the election happened. And one of those things was horse racing. And I voted in favor of allowing horse racing for a year to see how it went. Not because I'm in love with horse racing or love to gamble or anything like that, but because it's a good business decision. I watch the Democrats' booth at the fair every year. I can see that attendance has dropped off precipitously. I know the leaders of many of the community nonprofits, some of whom have pulled out of having concessions at the fair because it's just not worth it. They're just not making enough money. So I voted in favor of doing that. And if that might have been the issue, I'm not sure. I mean, I can only speculate what that is. I continue to go to work every day and do the work from 9 to 5 that we're expected to do. But she hasn't come to me and said, there's this issue or that issue. So I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Have you asked her?
No, once
it's an awkward conversation.
Once
to start.
Campaigns start, all bets are off until the campaign is over.
Okay, so let's get back to the phones. Don, you're on Talkback with Stacey Rye. Hi.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, just a couple of things in regards to the connotations that you say. For example, you said it several times that the gas tax hasn't been raised since 1993. And so for the average person, they say, oh, yeah, that's right, then we should do that now. And as the other caller had said, we know that money isn't going to go what it's really needed for. We had the last huge bailout back in 2008 that was supposed to go to the highway funds, and just went to signs to say that the highways are being worked on, et cetera. And
you're talking about the federal deal,
the
right?
Recovery Reinvestment
Act.
Act.
Sure, of course. Yeah, right.
Okay.
And in 1951, they increased taxes on gas for the Korean War. The Korean War ended quite a while ago, and they still kept the tax. Of course, they raised it again in 1956. Again, that's federal. But the point is that it just keeps going up. So my question is, when was the last time taxes were reduced?
Oh, that's a good one. Thanks for the call. Do you have any sort of an answer for that?
I'm not aware of the last time that cost of business went down either.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that I can answer that other than certainly general obligation bonds do go off our property taxes as they expire after 20 years.
So believe it or not, folks, we're trying to get all these calls in. Mike, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Hi, good morning. I have a question for Stacey, and I don't know where the commissioners enter into this equation. My understanding is that the City Council approved the improvements to the Southgate Mall expansion, which also includes the Mary Avenue to go to Reserve Street. It appears obvious that they're going to have to probably put a stop light there for traffic coming and going on Mary Avenue on the South Avenue to the mall. And down the road, 6 blocks to the south, they're also right in the process of building a multi-million-dollar overpass. Does this seem a bit redundant for access across Reserve Street?
Hey, sir, I hate to cut you off, but I don't think that the county commissioners have anything to do with either of those decisions.
Yeah, we don't.
Sorry,
there's going to be a trail over Reserve Street that connects the Bitterroot Trail to the Missoula-to-Lolo Trail to the Bitterroot Trail here in Missoula. It's like 50 miles of trail.
Yeah.
So that's an awesome thing.
All right, let's go to the next call.
We have 2 minutes. So, Mike, you're up. Go ahead. Hello, Mike.
Yes, I just wanted to ask if the gas consumption has gone up since 1993.
No, the consumption of gaseline.
Has the consumption of gasoline gone up? I don't know the
consumption of gas goes up. Your tax money, the flow of tax money also goes up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
But the amount of gas tax for providing service for all those cars and trucks on the road has remained static. So there's a lot more wear and tear. There's a lot more use, and that number has remained static.
Okay. And let's get one more call in. Sue, hi, you're on Talkback with Stacey Rye. Go ahead.
Good morning, Stacey. I was just wondering what kind of leadership is missing from the commission right now.
Sure. Thanks for calling with the calling today.
So we have like a minute and a half, so go ahead.
Well, since Stacey's on the commission, I think she'd probably say it's there, at least partially, right? It's interimly there.
You know, I think change can be scary. And I think there's 2 new commissioners in a very short amount of time. And I think both of us are very strong people. And we both have interests and passion for doing the best we can for the people that we serve. And that can be scary. And I understand that can be scary. So maybe some of the pushback is about not keeping the status quo. I think the county can be doing things to move the needle on a variety of different issues that we need to probably look at. One of those things might be, for instance, the state has declined to participate in early childhood education for 4-year-olds. Maybe the county can help facilitate that. I'm not saying it needs to cost county taxpayers $1 million every year, but maybe we can be doing something like that. There are lots of conversations right now about collective impact and what that means, and it's a very detailed kind of policy proposal, but maybe there's something that county government can be doing around collective impact. Certainly there are lots of ways we can be partnering with the city on initiatives that we both want to see done.
Stacey, we're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being with us. See, just flew by.
Thanks for having me.
John, what's coming up tomorrow?
We'll be speaking with the Montana Political Science Department, or from UM, about the Merrick Garland nomination for the Supreme Court.
Okay, you guys have a great day and enjoy this beautiful weather, and we will be back with you again tomorrow morning at 6 for Montana Morning. So until then, have a great day, and thank you, Stacey, for being with us today.